Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. What a brilliant game that was. My favourite game of the season so far. And the Lucknow Super Giants win this game by 6 wickets to 3 balls to spare. And I am a CSK fan, as you all know, but I like all the franchises to an equal degree. And I think that considering I pretty much watched this tournament almost as a neutral, even though I want CSK to do well. And even then, I didn't want CSK to lose this game, despite the fact that really the Lucknow Super Giants chasing this score down probably really complemented the first half where CSK got those big runs really well. And yeah, the CSK this is the first time that they've lost their first two games of an IPL season ever, and I will get to that in more detail. But I think that on the road to the final, whoever gets to the final, what I watched this tournament for, as I said, almost as a neutral, I watched this tournament ready to watch entertaining games of cricket, whether they're high-scoring games, low-scoring games, or even games like the Mumbai Indians Delhi Capitals game, where it was at the same venue, but it was a day-night game. Mumbai batted during the day. It wasn't apparent whether the game was going to be a high-scoring or mid-scoring to low-scoring game. And I think that the Mumbai Indians didn't really know what score was good enough. They didn't really know where they were going to go. And considering that 177 from them, with Ishan Kishan being the backbone of the innings, I thought was quite a good effort. And Delhi Capitals chasing that down from nowhere, really, from the position they were in at 72 for 5. And I think that all these kind of run ranges, let's say, provide really as entertaining games as each other in different ways. And I think that especially with these high-scoring 200-plus run chases, especially in the IPL, I tend to really want the side that's chasing to go all the way and get the job done. And this usually sets in from about the 10th over or so, quite concretely, although it's always building up from the start of the innings. However, for this game, I really wanted, from the first ball of the second, even before the second innings started, after the completion of the first innings, I really wanted the Lucknow Super Giants to chase this total down. I may sound like a fake CSK fan, but I really think, look, it really completes the fairy tale in these games where there are above 400 runs scored overall in the game. If the chasing side manages to get the job done, I think that if they got really close and there was heartbreak at the end, there would have been something incomplete. Certainly to me, I would have felt an incomplete feeling. And this is even when CSK are defending the score. And especially with the way the Lucknow Super Giants won this game, even though CSK put the brakes on their innings in the middle overs, the scoreboard never looked bad, but I think according to the situation, there would have been a bit of, especially after Quinton de Kock and KL Rahul got out, and I'm sure they would admit it themselves. They scored the runs, but the strike rates were under par in terms of what was required for the chase. There would have been a bit of kind of a, what are we going to do? We don't have any batting depth, I'm sure, but Evan Lewis, I've never seen him bat at number 4. I've seen him bat a few times at number 3, mostly opening the batting where he's at really his destructive best. But at number 4, I've never seen him bat, so quite out of position to bat him there. And yet 55 of 23, a magnificent innings and a huge well done to him and the Lucknow Super Giants as a CSK fan. And yeah, they did the job in the end. I'm really happy they did the job. Considering the reason why I guess there was an even more of a bias that I wanted them to win is because I just saw the personnel in this batting lineup, and the spine of their top 7 is only going to increase in strength when they've got the likes of Marcus Stoinis and Jason Holder available. And even the players in this 11 could put on a show, and they did. So I think that it completed the package of it being such an entertaining game, with there being such a great chase, a thrilling game, and yeah, as a CSK fan, a really well done to the Lucknow Super Giants. And tough luck CSK. If CSK were chasing the total, of course, 1, I would want the chasing side to win anyway, and 2, it would be CSK, so it would go hand in hand. So yeah, that's pretty much the only reason why I wanted Lucknow Super Giants to win this game, purely because they were chasing, especially after the first innings rather. So yeah, well done to them, and I'll get onto things in more detail as I progress with the video. But first, the starting 11s as always. And for the Chennai Super Kings, there was one particular change which I was a bit surprised about, and that's because when they bought Dwayne Pretorius in the auction, I thought he would be a Dwayne Bravo backup, but not necessarily play alongside him in the same 11. And I thought they'd give another opportunity to Devon Conway because he played in conditions that were quite bowling friendly in the first game, whereas in this game they were quite batting friendly. I thought he would enjoy batting on the surface, but he didn't play. He made way for Moeen Ali, with Moeen Ali slotting at number 3 and Uthappa opening their batting. And with the way Uthappa's gone in these last 2 games, and with the way how the batting lineup looks, the total they posted today, albeit in good batting conditions, but even on paper, I never thought that the batting was going to be an issue. And even after the first game, I still didn't think that the batting was going to be the issue. For me, I focused more on the bowling, as you saw in my video reviewing the first game of the season. So even without Devon Conway, the batting looks superb. It's just the bowling that's a real issue. And I think with playing with the bar at the top, I really think that it gives them that extra overseas slot to play the third overseas seamer. If you look at Dwayne Pretorius and Dwayne Bravo, and then Adam Milne was missing for this game because of a side strain, so if he slots back in the 11, it's a much needed bolstering of the bowling. And for the Lucknow Super Giants, there was one change, Andrew Tai being played instead of Mohsin Khan. Now Mohsin Khan only played for one game. He bowled with pace, a left arm seamer, 2 overs, none for 18. Now, it depends, maybe I'm going too much into this, but it depends how they view him as... I actually first thought, I think Ankit Rajput is in this squad, so I thought that I could play him as an Indian team, but I was happy that they played the left armer in Mohsin Khan. It depends how long they're looking at him in terms of really giving him a go. I would have given him another go in this game. I think 2 overs, none for 18. I think there was far too little that you could really tell in that game. In fact, if anything, you thought a left armer bowling quick, so why not give him a go? You provided some variety in the attack. Maybe they were looking for someone to bowl at the death, but as we've seen, Andrew Tai is one of those death bowling specialists that, as I said, bowlers that don't have that tag bowl better than him, and especially especially at the death. And the thing is, I think that, considering if you're looking at the template that the Lucknow Super Giants are going for, they would have wanted to play both Marcus Stoinis and Jason Holder, Dushmanta Chamera and Quinton de Kock. So they're not going to have room to play Andrew Tai. So it's just really, you could say also with the fact that I personally would have played Mohsin Khan because of the fact that he's a left armer bowling quick. Maybe he would have added a bit more variety. Andrew Tai went for runs this game anyway, even though he's 2 for 40, you could say par. I thought that those 2 wickets were near the end, and even then he was lucky he didn't go for too many runs in his last over because the deliveries he bowled weren't exactly that great. So he had an off day today. Well, he had really, as I've said, I know it sounds a bit harsh, but these death bowling specialists, in the end, they give more runs to the death than other bowlers that don't have that tag. And I just thought they could have still played Mohsin Khan, however risky it may have been. Maybe he would have conceded more runs, but maybe he wouldn't have. So I think that it would have certainly added something else to their seam bowling attack for this game, a left arm angle, but that's just my view. And I do understand why they played Andrew Tai, but yeah, as I said, I don't think, it might be they're not going to play him once Marcus Stoinis and Jason Holder are available. And the Lucknow Super Giants won the toss and chose to bowl first. And the CSK, especially considering the moment Lucknow were bowling first, I thought CSK, it was imperative that they got a huge total, considering, and they are very capable to do so with the excellent batting that the CSK have. But I think with the bowling weakness and the Lucknow Super Giants batting lineup, I thought that that's an even more of a reason why they had to get 200 plus, and they got a brilliant total in 210. And had the Andrew Tai over gone for a few more runs, and you could say that the deliveries weren't too great, but there weren't that many runs in that last over, and maybe they could have got a bit more, which in the end probably wouldn't have made a difference. I think CSK, the batsmen, did all that they could. And Robin Uthappa was magnificent, 50 of 27, really started by targeting Jamira, who, look, as I said before, in his first 2 overs, especially when he was in the power play, he was really well, and then in the death overs, it's a calamity. Now, when he goes for runs in his first 2 overs, you almost know that he's just sentenced himself to going at above 10 runs an over for his entire spell. And he went for none for 49 in his 4 overs. The moment his first 2 overs in the power play went for runs, I kind of knew straight away. The disadvantage with Mark Wood not being available is that with the death overs, as I said, Avesh Khan has to take the mantle, and in these last 2 games, I thought he was actually decent in this game. Okay, you may say with the way that he bowled, it wasn't that great, but his figures 2 for 38 in his 4 overs. Also considering that he's quite inexperienced still, and I think that he got 24 wickets in the previous season, but he had Anrik Nortje and Rabada to rely on as well. Him being the main death bowler on the side, I don't think he's quite ready for that, but he's going to have to play 14 games at least doing that. So the fact that, without Mark Wood, I really think that there's a huge onus on Avesh Khan, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the death they actually, when Holder and Stoinis are available, I actually wouldn't be surprised if Avesh Khan and Marcus Stoinis bowl at the death. So that's on him. But getting back to the CSK innings, magnificent from Uthappa. Pretty much everyone that got in scored runs. And I think that they motored along to 28 until a disappointing run out. Andrew Tai bowled a delivery to Gaikwad. There was an appeal for LBW, but it had an inside edge. But he ran quite decently far down the pitch. The Ravi Bishnoi was actually quite a good throw because he had to spin around and then throw at the stumps. A direct hit, and Gaikwad has run out for 104. Now, I'm not worried about Gaikwad at all because I think that even last season he started off with a bit of a stutter, and guess what? He's got about 600 runs. And even then it's just 2 games, and I think that, look, he is in this batting lineup, especially at the top of the order, they would obviously need him to have a good season, but I'm sure he will. So I'm not worried about Gaikwad at all. So he was dismissed, but a brilliant partnership that took CSK to 84 until Uthappa was dismissed. But they got 73 for 1 in the power play. Exactly the right tone set to get that big total. And Uthappa being dismissed by a delivery that kind of straightened up. A googly that didn't really turn too much, kind of straightened up from Ravi Bishnoi. And he was dismissed LBW, 50 of 27, a brilliant innings. And pretty much, as I said, every player that got in got runs. And I was actually quite happy. After I thought this, I then realized that Bishnoi, most of the time, he does go for the googly. But when Dubey first walked out to bat, I kind of thought, look, if, let's say, the 2 spinners are going to bowl their stock deliveries most of the time, that Bishnoi doesn't. But Krunal Pandya turning it into the left-hander. Ravi Bishnoi, if he bowls the leg spinner, he turns it into the left-hander. And Shivam Dubey, he really hits a long ball. And I think that at that point, when you really want to get a lot of runs, that was the right move. And so I thought that I didn't really mind that Shivam Dubey was walking out of number 4. He played brilliantly, 49 of 30 balls. And after Moeen Ali was dismissed by hoiking, kind of playing a hoik at a straighter delivery from Avesh Khan that hit the top of off, there was a partnership of 60 between him and Ambati Raidu, and that really, the thing that CSK did throughout the innings was maintain that run rate that teams had wanted to maintain to get to a 200 plus total, and that's why even when Moeen Ali got out in the 61st ball of the innings, I would have been disappointed if CSK didn't breach that 200, and I think what they did really well is they maintained that run rate all through the innings. Everyone, as I said, who got in got the runs, and 210 overall. They could have even got a bit more had the bowling wasn't too great from Andrew Tai in that last over, but the runs didn't really come as much, and they could have got a few more runs as well. But I don't really think it would have made a difference considering how the game went in the end. But Yeah, I think that overall, though, CSK pretty much did all they could to get that 210 for 7. And the bowling of the Lucknow Super Giants, both these first two games have struggled bowling to the death, albeit this game being played on quite a batting friendly surface. I think that, as I said, Dushman Chamara, the moment he doesn't bowl his first two overs well, you know that if he bowls at the death, he's just not going to do that well anyway. So I personally think that they should bowl him 4 overs up front to get the maximum out of him. And so he was expensive today. Andrew tied 2 for 14-10, but as I said, he should have gone for quite a few runs more because in the last over, he didn't bowl great deliveries, but I personally think that he got a bit lucky. And Krunal Pandya, none for 36 and 3. It was a tough day for finger spinners. And on that topic, all the finger spinners, and I'm including Deepak Huda's 1 over in this as well, they all went for above, pretty much, they all went for above 10 runs per over. But there was one spinner that was brilliant today, the one wrist spinner playing today, Ravi Bishnoi, 2 for 24 and 4. Just simply gold dust. And if you combine Avesh Khan's figures as well, okay, you could say he didn't really bowl that well either today. We got 2 for 38 and 4, but mostly Ravi Bishnoi's 2 for 24 and 4 overs on this kind of session. Everyone else is going for runs. The final score being 210. So I think that, yeah, a magnificent stuff from Bishnoi. And if you're looking at that probably really kept the total still in sight for the Lucknow Super Giants. Had he gone for even 10 runs more than that, I think the moment things got to 220, they were thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? We don't have any batting depth either. So that was the CSK innings, and I still think that Lucknow would have been confident chasing this down, considering the personnel they've got and the frailties in the CSK bowling. And it was imperative the CSK would get the openers out, and I think that, look, obviously there was a bit of a sedate start, especially in the first 2 overs, and then the openers were in the process of accelerating, and they got to 80 without loss in 10 overs, and you thought they'd just keep on going. And I thought that this is the thing here. Hand on heart, 40 off 26, 61 off 45. Sure, these are quite good innings. Quinton de Kock struck at 135.35. Rahul 153.84. And so, especially for Quinton de Kock, 61 of 45 and getting out at an integral time. And his wicket was a third wicket to fall in the innings when the score was 139 and 14.3. So at no stage of the scoreboard looked bad. And considering they only lost 4 wickets, it just never looked bad. But considering the situation, you thought they'd have to really go much faster to win the game. So hand on heart, and I'm sure these two would admit it, they're a magnificent opening partnership, but in this game, they didn't go at the rate that was required. I think they were getting to that stage, especially when they were 80 without loss after 8 overs, considering they were 11 without loss after the first 2. In the next 4 overs, they scored 69 runs, which is just... the next 6 overs, they scored 69 runs, and you thought they were just going to keep on going. And the surprise inclusion actually turned out to be a great one. Dwayne Pretorius, 2 for 31 is 4, dismissing Rahul and Quinton de Kock, and especially at the stage when the boundaries were drying up, Quinton de Kock being dismissed. They started drying up just before Rahul was dismissed, but Quinton de Kock being dismissed just when really you could say CSK were right into putting the brakes on in this innings. I think it kind of helped CSK that Manish Pandey was sent out at number 3. I rate him quite highly. He's a very good player, but in this situation, I don't know why they would just send him out. They effectively wasted 1 over where he scored 5 runs and got out caught. And with Evan Lewis batting out of position, you kind of thought, once again, without really having any depth in the batting, how would things go? But with the power of Deepak Huda and the power of Evan Lewis, you thought this side were in it. A 4 and a 6 from Deepak Huda, but Evan Lewis, I mean, out of position, playing that kind of blistering innings, and he really likes going square of the wicket usually, and he does hit down the ground a few times, and I really enjoyed it hitting down the ground today. 3 sixes for him, and yeah, he was absolutely magnificent. I mean, I've seen him play some spectacular innings in the past, especially those 2 centuries against India. But yeah, I mean, this was absolutely a magnificent innings. And honestly, look, there is a case that you could say, right, after this innings from Evan Lewis, are you really thinking that he would be dropped? And there is a good case for not dropping him, but at the same time, I personally think they will. And the reason why that is because certainly it will give the team 2 extra bowling options. They need those, let's be honest, because I think without Mark Wood, I just think that the death bowling is affected. They would probably want 2 trustworthy bowling options. I mean, these just aren't any part-time bowlers, let's say. I mean, even Marcus Stoinis, even if you're going to bowl 2-3 overs of him, you know that you can get those most of the time. Jason Holder, I personally think in my side he would be a 2 or 3 over bowler. I wouldn't put him as one of the 3-seamers, but I would think that he would bowl at least 2 or 3 overs, and he could sometimes bowl 4, and if he is part of the 3-seamers, he's going to have to bowl 4. So but however, though, you've got to still good considering that if you're just looking to just get more overs in, you've got 2 bowlers who can do more than that. And so I think that of course they'd want to get the 2 bowling options as well as the solidity that they both provide. I think the one thing that you don't get with Evan Lewis at number 4, but you do get with Marcus Stoinis and Jason Holder filling that middle order, is the spine of that top 7. What my 11 was before: Rahul, Quinton de Kock, Manish Pandey, Marcus Stoinis, either Deepak Hooda, Jason Holder at 5 or 6, you just interchange them, and Krunal Pandya at 7. That is a brilliant top 7. And that, I think that has an extra security to what however good this batting lineup is. I think that would have an extra security to what this is. So great innings by Evan Lewis, but I still think that you've got 2 players who are perfectly capable of playing the match-winning innings, and also much needed overs, considering, as I said, their death bowlers for me are Marcus Stoinis and Avesh Khan. And a magnificent innings, really. I mean, as I said, however well the openers played, they kind of dug their team into a mini hole, and Evan Lewis's breathtaking innings was needed. And I really think if Lucknow Super Giants hadn't won this game, it would be a shame, because especially in the batting, they would have taken quite a few positives out of these first 2 games. Ravi Bishnoi's first 2 overs in the previous game and 4 overs in this game was sublime. Krunal Pandya in the previous game was magnificent. And yeah, you've got really... Avesh Khan is still learning to really lead the death bowling with this attack, but that's only going to improve, I think, when you've got more bowling options in the side as well. Jason Holder and Marcus Stoinis becoming available. So there would have been quite a few positives in this side. So them being 0 from 2, even if they had lost this game, I wouldn't have really worried too much at all. Despite the fact they don't have batting depth, and you can say the death bowling seems a bit iffy with Avesh Khan having to lead proceedings, it still seems like it's still a quality side. So yeah, I think that in the end they won this game. A magnificent chase from them. And now to talk about CSK, because the one thing that really, they need 34 of 12 balls, and I thought 2 calls were a bit controversial to send those players from the Lucknow Super Giants in that phase. 1, Manish Pandey, I had no idea why they did that at that time. And 2, with the innings we saw Bardoni play, we didn't really think that he would play that powerful cameo in the situation that he walked out to bat. And I thought that Krunal Pandya would walk out to bat instead of him, but instead, especially that shot that he played off, I think he played that off Tushar Deshpande, or it was off Shivam Dubey, the shot that he kind of just swept for 6. And yeah, a really great cameo from him, 19 off 9, and I really think that honestly, they could make an amendment to their 11, because if they're playing on these batting-friendly surfaces, this opening partnership, more often than not, is going to bat for quite some time and set that platform, and one of them is going to go on and make this really big score. And so in that case, Manish Pandey at number 3, you probably wouldn't want to send him out at that stage. So why don't they play Ayush Bardoni at number 3? and then Marcus Stone is 4, Jason Holder 5, Dibakura 6, Karan Pandya 7. You've got that entirety of that batting lineup. In fact, they can all continue from where the previous player in the order left off. And yeah, I think it will probably be much better than really. Let's say if the openers get out early, sure, Manish Pandey playing in the side. But I think especially with the runs involved in this year's tournament, yes, of course he's a different player to Shakib Al Hasan, but I'm saying the kind of that same thing would happen where someone at number 3 is able to really score at such a brisk rate in Rahul Tripathi. So the original number 3 in in Shakib Al Hasan becomes a floater, and eventually doesn't play in the side for quite a few games. And you got an Ayush Badoni in this game has shown that when no one expected, in fact, I was surprised they sent him out instead of Krunal Pandya, and yet he scored 19 off 9. So what they could do is play him instead of Manish Pandey, and you've got a batting lineup that just continues where someone else left off. So overall, I think this side looks a really good side, and well done to them. And for CSK, I'm going to get to them where, look, I think you can't really blame these domestic seamers for struggling. I mean, again, they are far too inexperienced, and this isn't about them struggling. I think we kind of expected that. And someone like a Tushar Deshpande, for me, is actually, from what we saw in the Delhi Capitals in the few games that he played, we didn't really see too much special there, let's say. But in the 2 games he's played for CSK, for the majority of this innings, I thought that he was quite good, and especially 1 for 14 is 4, but I thought there were quite a few positives in the way he bowled, and I thought he bowled well in the first game. So the one positive for CSK and is that if they can, and I'm sure they will continue that environment they've had all these years within the dressing room, and I think that these domestic players, just even the likes of Shivam Dube, for example, I'm sure he'll become a better player while he's playing for CSK. And I think straight away we've seen the 2 games from Tushar Deshpande. For me, he's just a completely different bowler than what he's looked like for the Delhi Capitals. Even with him not being captain, just the MS Dhoni effect certainly would be on these domestic players, and I think that they'll probably play better for CSK. A domestic player would have a higher chance of thriving for CSK than in any other franchise, in my view. And on the captaincy thing, look, I think that the one thing I was quite happy with today was Dwayne Bravo bowling the middle overs, like I said. And after today's performance, I think that what they'll do is they'll ask Dwayne Bravo and Dwayne Pretorius to take the pace off in the middle overs to stifle the opposition batsmen. And as I said, I think they're relying on their domestic bowlers to bowl the death, which is exactly what I said in my previous video, because they're going to go for runs either way. Someone like a Tushar Deshpande is improving, and if you could really, if he could come good for you, and as I said, as we saw today, there wasn't really, apart from Dwayne Bravo and Dwayne Pretorius, there wasn't anyone in the side, unsurprisingly, that really was scaring anyone in the middle overs. And with Dwayne Pretorius, the performance that he gave today, will he be able to emulate that in future games? I don't know, but certainly Dwayne Bravo will be. And so I think that those two bowling the middle overs and the domestic seamers bowling either side of them will certainly work. I don't think you can rely on the spinners this season. I mean, unless there's a bit of grip in the surface. Jadeja and Moeen Ali, especially in this game where the finger spinner's got an absolute pasting, I don't think you can rely on them. So CSK certainly have their work cut out for them. And on the captaincy thing, I think it is Jadeja's team, and I think that that's the reason why you could, even though CSK have lost their first 2 games, Jadeja's captaincy, he seemed a bit nervous, I would say, especially with the Shivam Dube over the 25 run over. The fact that he was bowling there for the first time, I thought that it was quite unfair on him, and I wasn't surprised that the the Lucknow Super Giants won this game, even though they needed 34 of 12. I mean, CSK, if that 1 over had gone okay, they would have had the game in the bag pretty much. But in the end, the first time he bowled an over in the game, he had to bowl in the 19th over. So quite an unfair proposition for Shivam Dube after playing brilliantly in that first innings. So unlucky from him. And I think we have to allow Jadeja to make his mistakes as well. He's only captained in under 19 cricket. That's quite some years ago. And yeah, this is quite a high-profile stage to be captaining, and you're captaining a first time in the cricket in the highest level. And this is his team. So Dhoni won't. Yes, he'll be able to be the spin bowlers captain. I think behind the stumps, the influence will still be there, but it is rightfully Jadeja's team because he's the captain. And I think a part of it, although will the results go the way for CSK, I don't know, but we have to allow him to make his mistakes. I think that they've given him the role in the side purely because he's playing the best cricket of his life. I think that in terms of continuity, there wasn't really any other candidate at this point in time to give the captaincy role to. The only other player I can think of is Deepak Chahar. And how would he go? You'd think that he would pretty much go the same way, because if anything, based on I don't really know if he's had any captaincy experience, but if he hasn't, then who knows, things may go like this or even worse. So I think that there weren't really too many captaincy candidates available, only two, him or Deepak Chahar, and I think we have to allow Jadeja to make his mistakes. And yeah, tomorrow a great game, Punjab Kings versus the Kolkata Knight Riders, and let's see how that goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?